To Be Hero X is a superhero action show with an interesting premise and dynamic visual style. Created by Lee Howling, the latest entry in the To Be Hero series takes place in a world where anyone can become a hero by gaining the trust of the general public. The premiere focuses on Lin Ling, an advertising specialist working for a company that helps to promote popular heroes. After screwing up an ad for Treeman Corporation's top hero, Nice, Lin is immediately fired from his job. Unemployed and miserable, Lin takes his stuff to the roof, where the promos he created for Nice and his girlfriend Moon torment him. Just as he finishes venting his frustration toward Nice, the hero suddenly descends from the sky above him. To Lin's surprise, Nice walks right past him, doing his signature pose before plummeting to his death. Miss J, a representative from the Treeman Corporation, arrives at the scene shortly after and has her men capture Lin to question him about the hero's untimely death. They bring him to an unfinished building where she begins to interrogate Lin. When she stops to take a call from her boss, he tries to expose Nice's death before attempting to escape, but Jay stops him by throwing a paint bucket at his head. Seeing the white paint splattered on Lin's head gives her the idea to have him take the place of the recently deceased hero. 1 week after Nice's suicide, Lin is reported dead by Miss J and forced to assume Nice's identity. Thrust into the public eye, Lin must work to retain the hero's perfect image and continue to garner the support of the people. This was a very entertaining episode that immediately grabbed my attention within the first few minutes. Nice suddenly committing suicide totally caught me off guard. When he was approaching Lin on the roof, I thought he was going to push him off for some reason. After the interrogation scene, the plot takes another interesting turn as Lin adopts Nice's persona and goes on a talk show with Moon, where the host tries to expose him as an imposter. The episode moved at a pretty snappy pace, following the short time skip leading up to this point in the premiere. Conversely, the beginning of this episode is relatively slower, as viewers are introduced to Lin's world and several characters. Howling's approach to world building is quite organic and very efficient. Instead of relying on long exposition dumps to establish different aspects of the world, he conveys the information in a natural and engaging way. For example, the idea that heroes are created through the faith people have in them is explained during the opening sequence at the start of the episode. However, it's framed as Lin showing his boss the ad he created. This scene also lays the groundwork for the competition that determines the hero rankings, which Lin believes should be the focal point of the promo rather than Nice. That initial scene where Lin is getting chewed out by his boss for the messaging and direction of the ad was great. I love how blunt his boss is with him, telling Lin that he's average, has no skills, and completely dismissing his dream of becoming a hero. There's also a brief flashback later in the episode where he rejects Lin's suggestion to switch up Moon's appearance for one of their ads, which I found amusing because of his candid response. Given the ad exec's lack of confidence in and respect for his former employee, he was the ideal foe for Lin to face during the episode's latter half. Howling uses both of these characters to illustrate how this show's unique power system works. In this series, superhuman abilities can be obtained through the opposing forces of trust and fear. By accumulating enough trust points, anyone can acquire powers and become a hero. The higher this value is, the stronger an individual will become. A hero's capabilities is directly tied to the faith their supporters have in them. Powers derived by the fear of others works in a similar way. In the case of Lin's former boss, his ability to manifest termination letters stemmed from his employees' fear of getting fired. I like the idea that fear can consume someone and make them into a hostile villain. The moment when Lin starts to doubt himself during the fight makes me wonder how fear can negatively affect a hero. I assume they would just get weaker or possibly be corrupted by the malicious energy. Regardless, this anime's power system seems pretty interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the show expands on it in the future. Another compelling aspect of this series is its Spider-Verse-esque approach to storytelling. While a good chunk of the episode was animated using CG, certain sequences were drawn in 2D, utilizing different art styles. The moments where the show switched between the two mediums worked surprisingly well. It could have been jarring going from 3D to 2D animation, but the transitions between the two styles was pretty seamless. The way this was executed throughout the premiere is very reminiscent of how Sony's animated Spider-Man films uses various styles of art and animation as a tool to visually enhance its narrative. From a presentation standpoint, what the production team has accomplished in this episode is quite remarkable. I was really impressed by the fluidity of the CG animation and how expressive the character models are. Overall, the first episode of To Be Hero X was fantastic. The plot was very engaging, the action was exciting, the animation is impeccable, and above all, the writing was very good. This was one of the best series premieres I've seen in quite a while. I can't wait to see what happens next, given that shocking cliffhanger at the end, with Lin finding Moon dead in Nice's home. While I'm hoping they directly follow up on this in the second episode, I wouldn't be surprised if it picked up sometime after the events of the premiere, or focused on a different character entirely. I'll be really happy if we get to see how Lin and Miss J deal with this situation. She could just have someone replace her the same way she did with Nice, just to protect his reputation. Anyway, let me know what you thought about this episode in the comment section below, and as always, thanks for watching.